Right, hi everyone. My name is Rushan. I'll kind of run the platform engineering team at Singapore Exchange, the FX group. So it's a subsidiary of Singapore Stock Exchange. This talk is just about the journey I've took for the last, I'll say, 12 months, about how we kind of implemented and got Talos live into our production environments. And this is pretty much providing services for our clients to do FX trading. This is not a retail trading, this is all your institutional trading. So this is stuff like your pension providers, these are your asset managers, your long onlys, etc. How are we using that in our environment and what we've done to replace our existing platform. So, a couple of topics. So, around about this time, 2023, I was standing in a pub, having a beer. Someone comes up to me at work and goes, oh, what are you going to do about this migration? We've got to get off our technology onto the new stuff. And I thought, oh, we'll be fine. You know, how hard can it be? And I thought, 5 minutes down, empty pint glass in my hand now, and I thought, oh no, this is going to be really difficult. In my brain, I'm thinking, how am I going to achieve this? And to walk you through what we've got today, well, a couple of icebreakers in a way. I'll talk about VMs. So we run traditionally a lot of VMs on our premise. So we started probably around about 20 years ago, bare metal machines. You deploy your applications, your Java apps, everything runs. Happy days, applications share the same host, and we don't have to worry too much. We'll just add more physical servers. Around about 8 years ago, we decided, oh, let's just venture into running everything in virtual machines. So you deploy your applications, and then you deploy your application there, and then might run as A and B VMs. So be able to deal with your failover. And then, you know, working with VMs is great, but ultimately it's like moving a piano up a staircase sometimes. And using VMs is kind of what I like to say. We all kind of get together and we all get depressed about virtual machines and how tough it is to sometimes manage stuff. When it goes wrong, it does go wrong really bad. So, you know, talking about our legacy stack, I mean, everyone kind of knows the general story of what's going on in the industry. We use Red Hat virtualization and VMware. So you got one product, pretty much end of life, March 2026. And then you got VMware bought up by Broadcom, who are effectively overcharging every existing client. You're seeing price increases of 3 to 4 to 5 times their normal rate, but they're trying to capitalize on the market. But a lot of the times, they're trying to tell you to move over to their next-gen Kubernetes product. We have around about 6 data centers globally, Singapore, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, Frankfurt, New York. And in those environments, we run thousands of trading VMs. A mix of predominantly production, but some of them are UAT and operational. So we run stuff like DNS, LDAP, et cetera, all on VMs. We are also a heavy user of NFS, so we have storage. So we use network storage, we use Pure, you got your alternatives in the NetApp. And we kind of had various problems over the years with VMs and running it on NFS, and we usually get timeouts, and we have loads of VMs kind of just disappearing for no reason, and then coming back. And it's like, these are the kind of the things that we all go to the pub about and complain and bang our heads on the table, and we then come back the next day and go, yeah, we'll fix it, and we just don't get the time to do it. But we got kind of forced our hand a bit. So, you know, looking at kind of the breaking point, you know, again, I touched upon some of these points here. And one of the bigger things for me nowadays on a day-to-day basis is security. You know, we have to kind of make sure that all our endpoints are secure and safe. I'll have to sit there and work through audit findings and saying, oh, who has access to this machine? Who has root access to this machine? What can it connect to? Where can it go? And I have to sit there writing out documentation and saying, oh, this is what it does. This is what, don't worry about it. It's all under lock and key. No root access. No one's got passwords. Everything's done through SSH keys. We keep it all in sync. But sometimes, you know, it doesn't always work as nicely as you think. And someone will find you a little loophole, and they go, how did that exist? Well, someone put that in a while ago to fix a problem, then forgot about it. Oh, lovely. So now that kind of gives me a bit of a headache. I've got to write that in the finding and say, oh, we'll fix this at some point. Now, the pivot point. So I'm looking at a technology stack. So in January 2024, we started to look at various options. We looked at the Google GDC Edge. So Google will provide you with 2 racks, or X racks, an X number of racks, and you can stick it into your data center. They will stuff it full of compute, give you a top of rack switch, and then you kind of, in a way, plug and play. That's what we got told. Now, it was a good product. It was still in its early days, and it kind of think, oh, because we have a hybrid cloud model, we use GCP, we have our on-prem data center, it'd be great to put, get more in line with Google. So that comes along, gets fitted in. It takes about 3 months to get delivered, and we start using it, and we start finding, oh, this is a bit hard to use because it doesn't work well. It doesn't integrate with our network very well. We have certain needs. We needed to use multicast. Couldn't do that. We needed to also use PTP for our precision timing. Especially, it's really important for regulatory purposes to have our clocks heavily in sync. Now, at that point, 3 months down the line, it just didn't work, okay? Returned the hardware back, they came in, they collected it, off they go, happy days. Next part is that we started to play around with OpenShift. And it's like, again, we had relationships with Red Hat, we use it, product. The next thing was, oh, just change it over, get rid of Red, put it OpenShift in place, etc. Off you go. I started to think about, play around with it, tinker with it, and it's like, oh, it's good, but it's like a diesel car sometimes. It's slow. It requires a lot of maintenance and care, and you need to put your own proxies in place. You need to manage those proxies. They still give you the problems of security. People can SSH onto those machines and do stuff. And it's still a good product, don't get me wrong. It still serves the needs of Kubernetes and how it functions. And then kind of the next thing I heard about was Talos. Have you heard about Talos? My DevOps team, who managed the cloud environments, mentioned it, and they said they saw it at TalosCon, or the first TalosCon, or was it the KubeCon? I can't remember which one it was. And I thought, we'll give it a go. And I initially started playing around in my home lab, and I thought, oh, this is really brilliant. How can I now start incorporating a firm or a product like this at the company? Because, again, we're a heavily regulated firm. From European regulations to Asian regulations to US regulations. So it's not always sometimes easy for us to kind of put in a new technology that might have not been heard of very frequently. But I kind of showcased this, demoed it internally, and said, oh, I could just add the service in, add some config in, it spins up, connects up, and off I went to the races, happy days. But then the next problem became, I wanted a single pane of glass, if you look at it. One screen to see my cluster, all my clusters connected in a production environment. And one of the things with OpenShift, they charge you for everything that you might want. Those charges start to rack up, and they go, oh, no, this is too much. And then I thought, okay, let's have a look at what Talos and Omni was the next best thing, right? So that started to give me the ability to say, oh, I can get away from my self-managed HA proxy, get Omni to manage the Kubernetes API. I can integrate single sign-on into it because we use Azure AD for our single sign-on for our desktops, anything that were our tools, etc. So we started to put that all in place, and it all started to kind of flourish. In the last 8 months, it's been pretty much how do we use Kubernetes properly? And what I've got to learn is we come from a traditional infrastructure, right? You've got your virtual machines, you've got your servers, plug them in. Everything kind of, it's such a technology that's lasted, it's been around for so long, everything just kind of plugs and plays in a certain extent. But when you come to Kubernetes, I came to realize we take things for granted in some forms. When people say, you talk to people who use Kubernetes, oh, they use it in the cloud. Great, use it in the cloud. How do you use it? Oh, okay, we just terraform everything up. We can play, you get storage, get the network, all that stuff. Oh, brilliant, happy days. However, when it comes to doing deployments of Kubernetes on-prem, you're trying to make, what I like to do is, I'm always trying to make my life as easy as I possibly can. What I want is, I just want to plug and play stuff and just set up the foundation for the dev team to start using it. But then there's problems that you kind of face over time, How does it going to integrate with your network? How's it going to work with your storage? And then the problem here is if you don't have that Kubernetes mindset from the beginning of how to do things right, you'll certainly put yourselves into a lot of problems in the future. So as time came on, I came to find out, my storage, we use Pure Storage. Pure Storage doesn't work currently well with Talos. And they're trying to fix that currently with in the next, hopefully, 6 months, they will have their CSI fully ready to go to be able to use the storage platform as independently. So you're adding a better logical layer to then have your distributions of data. And what is important here is, to kind of state, is we heavily build our data centers on resiliency. So if you look at our data centers, we have multiple racks. Each rack will have a top-of-rack switch. Each rack will have power, but diverse power. So you won't get the same power distribution come to one side and then the same one going to the other side. It's flipped. So if there is ever a power failure, not every rack will go, one side will go down. It's vastly different. Even our connectivity to our racks, there are two diverse parts of connectivity coming in. So one from one side of the building, the other side from the other side of the building. Because what we want to do is minimize and predict our failures. And, we started to kind of build this out bit by bit with Talos, and Talos made it it's made life so easy just to tear down the cluster if I wanted to, and then rebuild it 5 minutes later with the same config. There was no, I have to reformat the hard disk and go into the IDRAX module, delete the virtual disk, recreate the virtual disk, change all the settings back to normal. This was all just very, very easy with Talos. And that's one of the best things about it, probably the best decisions I made in the last 12 months, that using Talos as our tool for Kubernetes and kind of going forward with the growth in our business. Because we pretty much are going to double our core footprint. We're currently around about 8,000 cores globally. We're looking to expand beyond 16 to 30,000 cores worth of compute because that's what the industry needs. We need processing power. We need to get out the door as quick as possible. So we started to kind of use Talos to start to build our infrastructure. Now we can move workloads efficiently between cloud and on-prem with a click of a button nowadays. We've got all the tools in place, all the software engineers have designed this where we can just remove a config from the cloud and then shift it across to our on-prem service. And we use tools like Flux to manage all our configs for the cluster. And then they get deployed into the cluster using just a standard Git process. We have other tools in place, observability tools. We use Victoria Metrics quite a lot. And then we've got Falcon for runtime security, Kaiverna for policy management, and cert managing external secrets. So again, what we try to do is, and I think there's a perfect slide about in the morning, is with Kubernetes, when I looked at Kubernetes, it's a bit like JavaScript. There is so many tools out there to do the same thing. How do you know which one to choose? And I came to realize, just keep life simple. My life is easier if I keep the stack as simple as possible. So, we now are fully live in half of our regions using Talos. Talos has also helped us with kind of keep things as low latent as possible. We're as close to bare metal without being bare metal. We can change the workloads wherever we want to. We can move it back and forth between the cloud, and then decide where things go long term. Now, the next big thing, the biggest thing for me right now is the migration path. Now, there's parts in there about Pixie booting. You could probably ignore all this, but the phase 5 is moving all our VM workloads. So it's all great, all the new stuff, built for containerization. Developers now don't need to worry about whether they need to run in the cloud or run on-prem. However, VMs, they run legacy applications. They require a lot of resources. So what's that going to look like? We're going to use KubeVirt. We're going to just export the images out of VMware and Rev, put them into the config, load them up, use GitOps, Flux, boom, off you go. There's really nothing complicated about this because we've made a conscious effort to keep things and keep our ecosystem as clean as possible. The ecosystem is very heavily driven by trying to keep it in tandem with the cloud team, the DevOps team, because there's no point of me going in one direction, then going in another direction, because at some point it makes it difficult to integrate. Now, kind of touched upon all this just in this conversation, but the benefits of kind of using the whole Kubernetes workspace and using KubeVirt just becomes much easier now. I don't have to go through, have to have a conversation with the developer and say, or an engineer says, oh, I need a VM. Okay, how many VMs do you need? I need 2 VMs in each region. I need X amount of cores, X amount of memories, X amount of disks. I need to get this deployed ASAP, or in most cases, yesterday. And I now have to go through that, go deploy, get Terraform, get some ClickOps going, get the VM started, off I go. It's like, oh, this is just another day's worth of work I have to worry about. And then eventually, I get VMs deployed. But now, it's like, well, I've provided the infrastructure. I don't really need to create the VMs anymore. I can get them to define the configurations and get them to deploy it. But we put all the kind of the guardrails in place to prevent any mistakes. And this is where a lot of the tools that we use kind of help prevent that. The previous talk about Veeam and backups, that's the next big thing for us. We need to start looking about offsite backups in Kubernetes. We traditionally use our underlying storage to do replication, but it's not efficient enough. It's not efficient enough to restore those VMs. So that's the next thing you need to look into. So, if you're looking at this transition from moving from traditional virtualization to Kubernetes, you need to start thinking about these things way ahead of time. Get your foundations correct that you're going to start utilizing these things. Get your storage correct. Get your network design correct. If you do that, this whole implementation of pushing Kubernetes on-prem becomes so much easier. And tools like Talos, Cilium have made my life so much easier. So I highly recommend, if you're in a business, you're looking to transition, consider these tools, because it's the next best thing. It's the way the technology is going to move, and it just makes life easy. If you're a business that needs to run cloud, run on-prem, well, this makes life easier, right? You can just shift your workloads wherever you want to. You don't have to worry about, oh, we've got one technology here, but the software is designed in a certain way to run on Kubernetes, but not on this. This all just kind of disappears. Battle scars. Again, touched upon this. I came across problems as I was building out the solution. It is, again, habits. You take things for granted, you build them out, and you think, oh, yeah, this is going to be easy. I can get on with this. This is not going to break anything. But you then come to roadblocks. Again, storage was my biggest problem. How the Kubernetes cluster connected to the network. So we use BGP. So we have quite a large pod range. We advertise the load balancing range to our network through BGP because, again, traditionally, you wouldn't really advertise your pod networks to the rest of your network. You keep that private, and you have some form of load balancing services in between. But because we are a low-latent business, applications need to communicate with each other without the extra hop. We use BGP to kind of become a routing boundary. Now, I have to say, it probably was a bad idea when now I think about it, BGP, because I've got existing VMs that already have static IPs with VLANs and etc. I can't now just take those IPs and stick them in Kubernetes. Now, effectively, I've got to re-engineer some of these VMs with different IPs, change DNS, get the application to the redeployments. So when you're coming to it, again, start thinking about how your workloads are going to interact with your network. It's not always about, oh, I'm going to deploy Kubernetes, I'm going to deploy new infrastructure, everything's going to work. It really doesn't work. I wish it did. It would make my life easier. I'll be having a lot more gray hairs than I do today. But if you start thinking about the problem way ahead of time and how you're going to design it, then it becomes easy. Again, keep saying this. Talos does make my life so much easier when it comes to just deploying something, destroy the entire thing, rebuild it, off I go. I think in one day, I'll probably rebuild an entire cluster about 15 times. And this is on physical servers in our DC, approximately 5,000 cores already there. So I could just easily just whack a button, type in a few commands on a terminal and delete the cluster, recreate it. That's the fun part. And in an emergency, I lose a host. I sometimes have to worry in Red Hat, is this host going to rejoin the cluster in Red Hat? Don't know. Bit of a coin toss. With Kubernetes and Talos, I can do it on a weekend. Just delete the node from the config, reset everything, and reattach it afterwards. And I could do that in probably 10 to 15 minutes rather than hours. So, talking about battle scars, there's a lot, but there's been a lot of happy stuff. The technology itself has really helped me kind of grow and build out the platform on-prem, and we reached a goal. We're hoping to be fully done with the setup by end of November, and the next 6 months is just about VM migrations. And we can just easily get that done in region, per all regions, in a single day if we wanted to. But we won't do, because we're a bit more risk-averse than that. But what we can do is put the foundations in place where we can start doing a small percentage one day, doing a bigger percentage the next day, and then until we get to our goal. So these VM migrations should be very straightforward for us. So, all in all, use Talos, buy Talos, and use Omni, because they're fantastic tools. So, right now, I say thank you. I do apologize about the I don't know, TCs here. It's not my calling. The company decided to do this, so it's a bit ugly. I do apologize. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.